They looked me in the eye and said, "Go back to where you came from. You don't belong here." I was sitting alone in a bus station. It was January, freezing cold outside. I had exactly $200 in my pocket. No family in this country, no friends, no backup plan. And in that moment, I made myself one promise. One day, this city would know my name. My name is Zane. I was 22 years old, and this is the real story of how I went from starving in New York City to building a business that changed my entire family's life. I grew up in a small city overseas. My family was not wealthy. My father worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, running a tiny shop just to keep our family going. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and I had one dream: America. Every single night, I would stay up late watching YouTube videos. New York City, the skyline, the stories of ordinary people who built extraordinary lives. Something inside me just knew that was where I was supposed to be. At 22, I got my student visa. That day, I cried like a child. But getting the visa was only the beginning. We needed money for the flight, the first month's rent, and expenses. My father took a loan. My mother, she sold her gold jewelry, the gold she had kept since her wedding day, every single piece. The night before I left, she held my face in her hands and said, "I have nothing to give you except my prayers. Take those with you and never forget who you are." I promised her I would make it worth it. I cried the entire flight to America. America hit me like a wall of ice. The first week, I was robbed, not by a stranger on the street, but by my own roommate, someone I had found online before arriving. He took $800 of my rent money and disappeared, gone, no trace. I was left with $200, no food, no connections, January cold that cut straight through my jacket. I applied to 47 jobs in 7 days: gas stations, fast food restaurants, grocery stores, warehouses. Anywhere that would take me. 47 applications, 47 rejections. Most of them said the same thing: you don't have enough local experience. I remember thinking, how am I supposed to get experience if no one will give me a chance? One evening, I was so hungry that I walked into a grocery store and stood near the free sample table for over an hour. Tiny cubes of cheese, little crackers. I kept going back, pretending to browse, just to have something in my stomach. That night, I called home. My mother answered and asked how everything was going. I smiled so she could hear it in my voice and said, "Everything is great, Mom. America is everything I hoped for." She laughed. She was so happy. I hung up the phone and sat in silence for a long time. She had sold her gold for this. I could not let her know the truth. Not yet. Day 9, I was sitting inside a bus station. Not because I needed to go anywhere, but because it was warm and free and safe. An old man sat down next to me. He was probably in his late 60s, calm eyes, a worn jacket. He looked at me for a moment and simply asked, "You okay, son?" I do not know why those 3 words did it. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the loneliness. But I broke down completely. I told him everything: the roommate, the money, the hunger, the 47 rejections. He listened to every single word. He did not interrupt. He did not look away. He did not judge. When he finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he leaned forward and said, "Listen to me. America does not owe you anything. Nobody owes you anything. But I promise you this: America rewards the ones who refuse to quit. So whatever you do, don't quit." His name was Gerald Thompson, 68 years old, retired restaurant owner from Brooklyn. He made one phone call that night. The next morning, I had a job, washing dishes at a diner in Brooklyn, $9 an hour. It was the most beautiful job I had ever seen in my life. For the next 2 years, I worked like a machine. Dishes in the morning, college classes in the afternoon, driving for Uber at night. 4 to 5 hours of sleep every single day. I saved every dollar I possibly could. I ate cheap. I sacrificed everything. But here's the thing nobody tells you about working that hard. When you are that focused, you start to see things that other people miss. I started noticing patterns. I watched every successful person around me closely, and I realized they all had one thing in common. They found a real problem and solved it better than anyone else. One day at the diner, I noticed something. The owner was struggling. The food was incredible, but the restaurant barely had 200 followers on Instagram. No online presence, no marketing. Customers were not finding them. I walked up to the owner after my shift and made him an offer. Let me manage your Instagram for free for 30 days. If I grow it, you pay me whatever you think it's worth. He laughed, but he said yes. In 30 days, I grew that account from 200 followers to over 11,000. The restaurant started getting lines out the door on weeknights. The owner handed me $1,500 cash and shook my hand. But more importantly, 5 other restaurant owners in the neighborhood had watched what happened, and they all called me within the same week. Just like that, completely by accident, I had started a business. Within 18 months, my social media agency had 23 clients across New York and New Jersey. I was earning $15,000 a month. I moved out of my shared room into my own apartment for the first time, bought a suit, a real one. And then one evening, I sat down, opened my phone, and called home. Not to pretend everything was fine, but to tell the truth for the very first time. Mom, Dad, I need you to come here. I am ready. I am sending the tickets. My mother could not speak for almost a minute. She just cried. My father, a man who had spent his entire life being strong, who had never once shown weakness in front of me, went completely quiet. Then, in a low voice, he said, "I always knew you would do it." That was the moment everything became worth it. Zayn did not succeed because his path was easy. He succeeded because every single time life knocked him down, and it knocked him down hard, he chose to get back up. He was not special. He was not lucky. He was just someone who refused to quit when quitting would have been the easiest thing in the world. If you are watching this right now and you feel like every door is closed, remember the kid who stood at a grocery store sample table for an hour just to eat. Remember what an old man told him in a bus station at his lowest point. Don't quit. That is the whole secret. If this story meant something to you, share it with one person today who needs to hear it. It might change their life. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, because next week we have another story that will hit even harder than this one.